Well, I have an experience, and it's a little awkward for me. I I'm part of a bridge club. One of the people is about 6'4" and dresses. I'm not sure of the language, but I think a male who dresses like a woman with a real dress, and it's very difficult. I mean, I have a personal interaction with this person. Their voice is so deep. Uh, I can't quite get, adjust to the fact that this person is trans. It's just a little difficult.
Marvin, when you say you can't adjust to the fact this person is trans, do you mean that this person is a woman?
But no, I mean this person is a man who is dressed
Dressed
as a woman and has clear physical features of being a man,
oh,
even though they're wearing a wig and they're trying
oh.
to appear to be. I don't how to even speak about it.
I just wondered why you could hardly speak about it.
Well,
Does in you.
because I would like to understand their situation better. If they are really a trans person, then I can accept it. But I easily accept it. Um, but the deep voice
Uh-huh.
and the male features make it more difficult.
Cross dressers, you know. I mean, they're
It could be.
yeah,
I haven't the slightest idea.
yeah, yeah, a few.
That's why I'm
So,
confused.
you know,
So I would be confused. I would not, I mean, know whether to say about that person we're playing bridge, he or she. I wouldn't, I wouldn't know how to talk.
So I I I
So that
so
she, I mean, the person would want she. I,
yes, that's the way I take it. But I
uh-huh.
don't know the
Okay, yeah.
But I think the way to do it, if you want to find out, is I mean, maybe they already know that you're Marvin, but you know, the next time you're talking to them, can't you say, "Hey, I never shared my pronouns with you. Mine are he, him."
I
It's
think
like,
it's irrelevant to because we're playing bridge. We're there for a social interaction about playing a board game or
it,
card game. We're not talking about sexuality or gender identification.
I think maybe the the point is this feeling of I can't accept it, right?
Well,
I
it's
can hardly
confusing with
talk.
that deep voice,
Yeah.
that very clear, it's a deep voice. Um,
Yeah, it's that place and that I think we're trying to work with in this community empowerment, this
Mhm.
place where what Jean calls the murky edge. It's like that edge of awareness where you're confused and something new has to come there. And it can feel either exciting, like, it's the edge of thinking. I can't think there. Uh, it can be exciting or it can be uh annoying that uh that these people or this situation is confusing us. Yes, you feel insecure.
Yeah, it's stupid,
Yeah,
like a kid, like
yeah,
3-year-old, like
right. You feel stupid,
wondering.
insecure, inept.
Mhm.
However, this person is identifying that we're sitting here discussing this person identity without this person being able to weigh in on who they are just doesn't feel right to me. I'm more curious about what is it for you, Marvin? what's happening with you. Because what I'm hearing from here is that there's such level of discomfort for you in that space and not knowing that it makes it difficult for you to be in relationship.
No, that's not correct at all. And I take your almost like an accusation. I'm not, it's not discomfort. It's a distraction from playing bridge. I'm there to play bridge, and here's this person who has facial hair, um, a deep voice, and I'm surprised to be in the in their in their company. And
So that's what I don't understand. How is that a distraction for you? Like, I don't understand. If you're there to play bridge, how does that distract you? And I feel I'm really feeling on this end that you placing the ownership of having to explain who they are on the person.
not at
And
all.
they don't have to.
That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying, what I am saying is that it's confusing to me that I haven't been in the company and had interactions with trans people. And I have to get used to it.
But that's not at all how you're sounding. This is what I'm hearing on this end. This is all I'm hearing. This person has facial hair. They're using the name Jennifer. Their voice is very deep. They're wearing female clothes. And who are they? And why are they doing this? And that's disturbing to me.
You're
And they
adding
need to fix it. That's what I'm
you're
hearing.
adding the who are they and why are they doing this? I'm not adding that. I am saying it's confusing to me.
I wonder, Marvin, if you'd be willing to pause and to sense in to the more that's in this for you.
I'm not sure what you're asking, Annette.
I'm inviting you to close your eyes and to feel the felt sense of all of this and see, like, you've got the word confusing, but it feels like from what all the bits that we've got so far, that maybe confusing isn't quite the right handle. I'm wondering if there's a better word, something closer to what this is happening, bringing in you.
I think confusing is close to the right word for me.
I feel that, you know, we are not exposed to, I mean, we're supposed to understand from the get-go all these differences, and we are not, if we're not exposed, how can be, and we might have some feelings about it. It doesn't mean, brings up a lot of issues. I think it's good we're talking about it.
I want to express myself as Marvin. Would that be okay with you, Marvin?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm Marvin. Why aren't you accepting my word confused? And you're mad at me for having trouble with this. And I'm not being prejudiced against anybody. I'm troubled. This world is such a new world, and I'm not used to it. I don't know how to be in it. I don't know how to play bridge with somebody who I don't know, you know, whether they're a man or a woman. I haven't been in this. I'm disoriented, and I want you to understand that disorientation and not to be mad at me for it. I don't want to feel like I have to be correct here.
I appreciate that, Lynn, because that's much what I'm feeling. It's difficult enough to play bridge, and we're playing competitive bridge. It's difficult enough to do that.
I think I'd feel that too. Like to join you, to be an alter ego. I was feeling a bit like a child who was going to say the wrong thing, not knowing how to be. I don't know how to be.
When we just started this session today, I spoke about having an experience about with at a dance where I asked somebody their name and they said they and them, and I didn't know how to respond to that. And I said the director chastised me for asking and not being um, not not I guess just for not knowing the right language and how to be with uh, in this situation. And I felt a little bit like that with Isabel, that you were chastising me, and also Annette, that you didn't accept what I was saying, and you were pushing me to be different, to have a different sense, to have a different set of feelings than I do have.
Just want to say that the way you were speaking about this person was landing on me like a brick. They have a deep voice, they are dressed like a woman, they have a beard, and they are confusing to me. It felt dehumanizing and invalidating. That's what it felt like to me on this end. That, like, you know, I can't play bridge if this person is showing up in the world in this way.
I wonder if we could have somebody that would reflect both Marvin's feeling and Isabel's feeling there, because that's what we've learned is that when we have a moment of conflict, it's so important to grab that moment with a reflection and not let it go underground or get muddied up. So
I would try. Let me start with Isabel, because I think that's harder for me now and might need some help. Isabel feels totally not seen, and that the person we're talking about in the Marvin's bridge situation is not seen, but that's the feeling she has of being made sort of a thing and what I can't think of the word, but that the important thing in the situation isn't that person, man or woman that we're talking about, but is Marvin. And not him, her. So the person is not there. And that is infuriating.
I think that that's some of it, as if this person was being spoken about as an object.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word for me. That there was an invisibility of who they are, regardless of how they're showing up.
Is that the complete enough for?
It feels complete enough for me right now in this moment.
Yeah. Okay. And the person has been spoken about as a thing, as an object. Now, I think for Marvin, he feels not only confused, but doesn't know the person, doesn't know the situation, so cannot possibly put any words there, because this is a sort of has not happened ever. That's the awful thing. because there is a human being there. And it's like avoiding or pretending there's an empty space.
Well, you have it in part correct, Susan. In the situation, yes, there is an impersonalization that is happening, and that's correct that Isabel picked that up. But the situation is such, invites that impersonalization. And for me, Isabel accused me of being a bad boy, that being bad, doing something improper, inappropriate, worse than that, being rude or nasty to this other person. And I'm talking about my feelings. I'm really focused on the other person. I'm focused on my cards.
I wonder if I could broaden this out a bit, because one of the most important things about our group that really distinguishes it from other kinds of groups is that, we're looking at the individual, the situation, and then the broader systems that we're in. And it's, for me, as if Marvin is representing, I mean, of course, Marvin, your own distinct individual self. There's no others like you. But you may be representing the older inexperienced with these new things person that just says, I don't want to deal with this. I want to look at my cards. And I think that there's a big segment of our world that feels that way, especially the older people. And I think that Isabel is representing the people who know deeply and personally about being dehumanized, depersonalized, seen as a thing, and needs to protest a tone of disrespect. And so these two segments of our world are not able to talk to each other at all. And we're trying to make a space where we can talk to each other with those feelings, where we're not so afraid of correctness that we have to keep all those feelings, like Roberto was saying, to ourselves, that we can voice them. Maybe another way of saying it is, what's going on around here? What are we, what are we up to? What are we doing? How are we doing in what we're doing?
I'm glad we're addressing the conflict rather than getting rid of it. My position is that as long as I'm not the weirdest person there, I'm grateful that somebody else came along and is willing to be weirder than me. And I am impressed with their chutzpah. So that's my position. I play chess with a trans woman all the time, and she's a lot better than I am.
You
Also, she's
comfortable?
discriminated against in the chess world too, because there are women's titles and men's titles, and they don't even let her compete.
Would anybody want to say what they feel the essence of the conflict is?
But also, I just have been trying to like be sure that I contain myself, because I don't want to say, like, I actually I can't say too much from the I on the subject because I was discriminated against as a gay person and fought it. And so it set up this something problematic for me to speak about everything. Like, legally. But the conversation tonight, it leaves me really perplexed in terms of, I've been so worried because any gains in this country for trans people have had such an enormous, pushback and reaction for 20 years now. I mean, when I was discriminated against, it was the trans people in my agency that came to my aid. And I mean, if we're gonna give, like a pass, like let's give it to everybody here. I mean, to me, stupid means that you cannot learn as a definition, and ignorance means you hadn't encountered it or, didn't know about it or hadn't thought deeply about it. And I'm guilty of all kinds of things, about hundreds of cultures that I, haven't known about. And my first trans friend was in like 1977. And he would ask me to come and sit beside him when he would call his family. We were in art school. And I would do that. And, but he couldn't talk about it. Super kind, very competent, very brilliant young person, young man at that time. But he couldn't even talk about it. So I just want us to talk about it, but at the same time, I wanted to be like really contained because I just have this enormous fear for trans people in this country. And my goodness, like, I don't even know the situations in other countries. I'm very ignorant of that. I know this sounds naive, but, if we want to talk about it, like, let's also like take in like what's being said with, equal innocence or, curiosity. Like if it's meaningful enough for us to talk about it, let's take it in as, and let's let it be okay. Like Marvin, let it be okay if you said something wrong or you said something that offended somebody. Like there's a way that you're so, like untouchable, yet you can, bring it on. So that's like sort of like my wish, like,
You wish Marvin could be okay with offending somebody, his way of talking.
and
okay.
yeah.
Doesn't feel like a bad boy.
Mary, I'm confused by, I'm easily confused, but I'm confused by what you're trying to tell me or say to me.
Well, I experience you as being a really bright man who was a therapist in New York City, who chose to move to San Francisco, And so I'm confused by with all your being, you're believing that, yeah, you just never encountered this before. I don't entirely see how that's possible.
It is the case that I have not had knowingly an interaction with a trans person as I am expressing playing bridge with them. I haven't. I'm an innocent and ignorant.
Well, it's not though that it's not that somebody identified themselves as them for the first time, like you know, and it's not that you were sitting with across the table from a trans person for the first time, but it's how you comport yourself about and around people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, of different genders, of different levels in transition, who were maybe like, performing in nightclubs in women's clothes or wearing women's clothes to the bridge game. Like,
that isn't the issue at all for me, Mary. I try to accept people for who they are and not discriminate. But I may be confused by their presence as I expressed myself and in this particular case, and it has an effect because it's distracting to me. Because I'm there, I'm not to, I'm, the situation is that we do not have very much of personal interactions. I don't ask the person, well, how did you come to dress the way you dress? Or who are you? We don't do that when we get together to play bridge.
I'm
I
not
don't,
talking about that. I'm talking about how you're comporting yourself in this group. That I want you to let it in more when, Annette lets you know, like a way in, that actually trans people, I think, have taught me and maybe other people and maybe the world, is introduce yourself with your pronouns. Like, be willing to hear. If you want to talk about it, it's not a one-way street. Like, please be able to hear us. Please be able to hear Isabel. I don't feel like you're discriminating per se, but there's all different kinds of ways of including the whole person or not.
You, Mary, want Marvin to be more receptive to the feeling that's expressed by some of the people of wanting him to be more receptive to the trans person at the bridge game, and you're feeling his sort of pulling back or like, I'm here, and you want him to be able to move a bit. Is that right?
Yeah, there's something about the main discomfort or complaint or what he notices is that he's distracted. And my comment is, my God, Marvin, like, I know you're like deeper than that. And if you only knew the sacrifices and what it takes, it's like, holy shit, that's a brave person to come there. authentically, you're a lucky guy.
You're absolutely right in terms of this person being very brave to present themselves and be playing bridge and be out there. But the circumstance of our get together is really not social in the way that you imagine it to be.
I don't want to interrupt you, but it seems to me that Mary isn't asking you at the bridge game, but
Right.
here in the group to open your heart to the advantages of being confused and encountering something that you don't know about and don't know how to act with, and you're with us, not at the bridge game, but with us. Say, I'm a lucky guy that I have this experience, even though it's distracting. I think that's what Mary is asking. She wants you to open your heart to the confusion, open your heart to the newness, to the disorientation.
Lynn,
While
don't you think I'm doing that? I mean, I'm really out there expressing myself pretty fully to
Yes,
a dozen people about this experience, and I'm
yes, yes, yes.
surprised that you're not. You're asking me to do more.
Yeah, yes, Isabel has gotten really upset. And then, I mean, what I would want is that Isabel would say her feelings, and then also Annette about how they feel about what you said. You know, Annette is asking you to go to become more vulnerable, to go inside, to do an exercise, but I would want to hear what she feels, and also about Mary.
Thinking if for you the confusion is because there's an anticipation of something and then you get something else, right? The surprise is, oh, I was anticipating you're a girl or whatever it is, and you're not, that there's more there. Like there's always more in focusing. We know that. And the invitation was to go to the next unfolding. And I guess I'm kind of curious why the pushback. Like there's always more. So why is it? Yeah, I don't understand.
I think what Roberto is saying is that instead of asking Marvin to do more than he's doing, that we could express our feelings, and I'd be very interested to hear what you're feeling in it. You know, the thing that I always say, which is you can't change the other person, but you can change the dynamic. I think Roberto is sort of saying something like that Marvin has taken a lot of risks for him, and so now it's up to us.
I guess I'm feeling maybe frustrated.
Can you say a little more?
Because it feels like we haven't really got, I know I keep coming back to Marvin, but it's like brought something and I feel like we haven't really got it. We're close, but we don't really, it doesn't feel to me like I don't feel like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense.
Ms. Sumi, I'd love to know what you're feeling.
Thank you for asking me, and I'm also feeling just a little bit baffled because it's a very complicated matter for me, and I don't know if my English is enough to express my feeling. I am very grateful that to hear personal experiences, how some of the people said about their identity. And it's a new world for me. I've known people who are gays, and also my daughter is working for movement for LGBT rights, and so I'm I'm not totally unaware of this injustice in laws, probably. Not equal, they are not equally treated, not only in laws, but in personal communication. But I'm very happy that as I said, that each person really disclosed how their felt senses are. And in Japan, we really don't talk much openly yet about the identities, gender identity, or even I am surprised to see after, like VJ, she has she her, the expressing the identity in Zoom meeting like this. But what I would like to say is that the tone of the voice or the way they speak or speed or the loudness, I really totally felt the same way as Marvin when Isabel spoke to him. Condemnation was there, accusation was there, I felt. And for me, it is so important not to show such judgmental feeling of words when you talk in this group. I felt some kind of judgment from Isabel's voice. What I am trying to say is I personally am not concerned with this finding out their identities, like religion. Are you Christian? Are you Buddhist? Or myself, I am married to a man who is what's called half Bulgarian. His mother is Bulgarian, so white. So he is half white. And people would ask my children, you are a quarter. And that discrimination really bothers me. Just speaking out how they judge from the background, not from the felt sense of that person. So what I learned from here now in this group, I am telling myself to look for what they are feeling now, not the words, the title, or the background of their identification. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity to share real personal felt sense from real person who has been feeling differently. That's all now I can say about.
Thing that has stayed with me that I heard you say was that for you, the felt sense of the person is what is really important, not figuring out, are they this, are they that, are they white, or how much white?
Yes, that is sort of a real good essence of how I feel now.
I heard you saying you appreciated the people bringing up this issue and aware of the injustices that have been committed, and that you at the personal level feel the pain of people. You're fully. I felt like you're fully hearted here.
Feel a lot from the tone of voice.
Mm-hmm.
And you felt Isabel's voice as accusing. There's a lot for you in the voice, the tone.
Mhm. I felt, I don't know what other people felt from her voice. It's just how I felt. And knowing not enough of English language, I really hear from the nonverbal signs.
I think that the lack of judgment is extremely important in all of our differences. And how easily we can move to judging without even meaning to sometimes, or being aware of it maybe, I'm not sure. Speaking up for LGBTQ, but you know, I've never had any real contact with anyone. So I don't feel having contact and knowing people with all of these different beliefs and things helps me considerably. And I think I'd just be open and all, but I hope so. But I haven't had the experience.
You know, can I just say, really the word that came in for me right now, what Marvin was speaking, was a dismembering of this person. And I really do mean dismembering. That there was and that was and what was present for me was both anger. There was definitely anger. And it took me back. This wasn't my friend, but I was 12, and this was my mother's friend, a transgender woman in our block who was very close to my mother, who was literally killed and dismembered because of her presentation. And so the breaking a person to pieces around their voice, they have a beard, they wearing a skirt, it really felt for me that the person was being dehumanized and broken into little pieces. And to your point, Masumi, I wish that the person would be seen more than those pieces and be seen as a whole. So that's where I was. And I just wanted to say that and name that. That the other thing here in this country may not be true in Japan, is that women of color who are transgender are more likely to be killed than any other woman. And that's a real statistic. It's a real thing. And for me to sit here and be silent around that, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can be complicit to that. I just can't. I just cannot. And maybe that's another way to express it, as you invited Masumi to go to my felt sense. But my brothers and sisters who have been killed, especially transgender women here, the felt sense didn't save them.
Get more urge in you, just a real big turmoil around you that made you speak up the way you did. And I can empathize with you now better. Thank you.
You were judging the judgment, and that was accurate. And I mean, that is a good thing to be doing.
Can I just want to add one more thing, and I really have to be on silence. The baby, as you heard, wants this, she wants that. This morning, I was sharing with Lynn and the team something very deep and personal to me around a young person who's being accused of a huge crime. And my thing, knowing this young person, is that when people see this on the news, the only thing people are going to relate to, it's the crime. The only thing people are going to see, it's the crime. Nothing else around this person. And Marvin, the last thing I want to say to you, I'm not saying you're a bad boy or a bad person, and I've seen your heart. And the last thing I'm going to say to you, Marvin, you may be there to play bridge and compete, but that's an interpersonal connection that happens whether we are aware of it or not. And even outside of that space, you can connect with this person and be curious about who they are and how they show up in the world.
like, very accepting of your good intentions, but I'm mindful. I'm feeling accused of doing something wrong again. That is, I should be doing something. I should be calling up this person. I should be initiating some action that I'm not doing. Yes, I want to accept everybody as a complete person. And uh, I'm presenting the situation as I experience it. I can do better in every situation. I also want to just correct something because Annette, I was annoyed with you in your request that I go deeper, but I felt that I hadn't fully responded to Isabel's accusation, and I was still feeling blamed. So I didn't really take in and couldn't get in touch with your question. And Masumi, just to tell you, I understand your reaction very well with regard to your grandchildren. My grandchildren are half Japanese, and I experience the discrimination that they express to me and my daughter expresses to me often.
I've been wanting to say something, and I feel really fearful of speaking in. It feels like kind of going right into a hornet's nest. Like there's some things that if you're going to speak about them, it's just not like a hornet's nest, more like a minefield. Like the best we can do is come to these things with openness. I don't feel like I know Marvin, and I don't feel like there's this like a vindictiveness or a bias or a prejudice. There's, this isn't the world I've grown up in, he's grown up in, but there's like a how do we talk about this? And Lynn, you even shared something about going to a restaurant and the serving person, you weren't certain which sex they were. And there's something, I think you used the word disturbing about it. That's not saying that person is there's anything wrong whatsoever with that person. It's really saying, how do there's something that flags up for us when we're in a situation that's new, when we're seeing something that we aren't able, like your nieces and nephews, Annette, to put in like pink or blue or eyelashes or whatever. We're all like, at least from my generation, I was sort of raised like that. And so it's with a very open heart and a willingness to want to support trans people, gay people, sliding scale sexuality, whatever anybody wants to express or locate in themselves, wonderful. But I don't inherently know the language or know how a person wants to whether they want to be defined with their pronouns. I feel like there's a huge bias in that. I don't feel like me being female is the most important thing about me necessarily, or me being this or that. I don't want to say my name and I'm a he or a her or a they. I don't feel like maybe that's a helpful guide or something, but why is that the most important thing? Why don't I have to say my income or how much I pay for taxes or where I'm located or how tall I am? I don't want to have to serve myself up that way. Wow, I didn't know I felt so strongly about that. But somebody's deciding that's what's most important right now. I don't know that that's the most important thing to me, or that I want to put that on anybody else. So I was really appreciating that we were saying this feels uncomfortable, or I just don't know, and I don't want to step in it. I don't want to start a revolution or hurt somebody or offend somebody. So it's very complicated, and I do feel like bringing an openness and like a conviction to stand for the one in there, whoever, whatever, however they're dressed or whatever they're going through. That's a lot. That's a lot more than we have going on collectively, I think, in the world and certainly in this country. And it's not enough, but it's a lot. And I don't like that to be discounted by people being so fearful of speaking. Yeah, I don't want that to, like, for people who are like, I want to know, for them to have said the wrong words, and then that whole dialogue is shut down.
One more thing. First of all, Rachel, was very cheering to hear you say
Mm.
a lot of what you said. And it gave me space to think of something that I feel annoyed about.
As Rachel said, we're on a path here together of talking about things that can't be talked about. We're making the unsayables sayable, and in the process of talking about things that aren't talked about in our society, in our families, whatever. There are going to be clashes. People are going to get offended, and it doesn't mean that anybody did anything wrong. The feeling of being offended is a feeling. I think judgment is something we have to really think about what we mean by judgment, because it's a human thing to be offended, to be upset at something that represents oppression to us, or represents disrespect, or whatever, or represents your accusation. And the important thing is that we don't stay with the offense, but we have to be able to express that it upsets us.
I appreciate what you were just saying and how meaningful it seemed to me, because I often don't know just how to respond to different situations too. So I think that might be one of the things, one of the ways that this group can be so beneficial, because we are learning from one another. And each of us has different experiences and different responses and different gut feelings in all of these situations.
Any last words before we go? How are you doing there, Marvin?
I'm doing fine. I love what Rachel said, and also what Susan said, and what you said, Lynn. You really hit it on the nose.
I think it was a great group. There was a lot of difficulty at times, but it was great.
And I heard Isabel just being, in the best sense of a word, a patriot for things that she really values. And I heard her say, this is how it lands on me, Marvin. This is how it lands on me, Marvin. This is how it lands on me. She said it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, for me, said, then, this is just all about her. It's not about Marvin. And at the same time, you can't help but have your feelings hurt. It kind of hurts my feelings that Yoka doesn't like it when I can't contain myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's life, right? It's just, and it's a beautiful thing to just be together in it. So thank you, Isabel, and everybody else.
Well, I just wanted to say that for the people here who are straight and don't feel like you have experience with people who are gay in different ways, like, you have focused with us. And if it were a subject about another culture, or I don't know that it would get so much pushback. I don't know. It's not about that anybody's trying to have anybody speak in a certain way, but to speak from a certain depth of humanity and inclusion.
Mm. Mm. Thank you,
Those are
Mary.
good words, depth of humanity and inclusion. I like that.
Yeah.